Okay, in this video, we are going to add and subtract rational expressions, and these are the three problems that we will solve together. But before we solve them, these are my procedure whenever I add and subtract rational expressions. My first step says factor the numerator and denominator. Second step says get common denominator. Third step says add, subtract, keep denominator, which is the common denominator. And the fourth step says identify restrictions on x. So let's solve this first one. So this piece is x times x plus 1. Here is just an x plus 1. So we don't have a common denominator, but we could multiply the numerator and denominator by x, and then we will have a common denominator. So let's rewrite this as 3 times x divided by parentheses x plus 1 times x. Again, x divided by x is just 1. So we're not actually doing any changes, but this way we get a common denominator. And then we have the other piece, 5 divided by x parentheses x plus 1. At this point, we have a common denominator, so now we can just add the numerator. So we have 3x plus 5, so let's write this down. 3x plus 5 divided by our common denominator, which is x parentheses x plus 1. Close parentheses. And it's a good idea to decide to write some restriction. We know that x cannot equal 0 or negative 1. And if you did have 0, you'd have something divided by 0. Likewise, with negative 1 plus 1 is 0, and you'd have something divided by 0. So this right here is our final answer. This will be our second problem. But now what we can do first is to factor this denominator. So instead of saying x squared minus 2x minus 8, we can rewrite it as x parentheses parentheses x parentheses. We think to ourselves, what two numbers multiply to give us negative 8, but add to give us negative 2? And that can be negative 4 plus 2. And we can try it. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So now we see that this piece is x plus 2 times x minus 4, this denominator. But this denominator is just x plus 2. So if we want to get a common denominator, we need to multiply this piece by x minus 4 and the denominator by x minus 4. So we can write this down. So we have 7x times x minus 4 divided by parentheses x plus 2, close parentheses, parentheses x minus 4. Again, x minus 4 divided by x minus 4 is just 1. So we're not making any real changes. Minus 3 divided by x plus 2 times x minus 4. So now we can have a common denominator, so let's rewrite this. So we can say 7x parentheses x minus 4 minus 3 divided by parentheses x plus 2 times x minus 4. I also want to expand the numerator, so I'm going to do 7x times x, 7x times negative 4. 7x times x would give us 7x squared. 7x times negative 4 would give us negative 28x. And then you have our minus 3. And I'll keep the denominator as is. X plus 2, close parentheses, parentheses x minus 4. And we can state the restriction because, again, you can't divide by 0, so we might as well say that x does not equal to negative 2 because negative 2 plus 2 is 0, or positive 4 because 4 minus 4 is 0. And then this right here is our final answer. Okay, the last problem, a little bit challenging, but same procedure. We first want to factor the numerator and denominator. So we're going to get ourselves our 5x for this one divided by, we got to factor the denominator, parentheses x, close parentheses, parentheses x. We think to ourselves, what two numbers multiply to give us 6, but add to give us 5? 3 and 2. Because 3 times 2 is 6, 3 plus 2 is 5. We have an addition sign. Now we got to factor this numerator. So x parentheses parentheses x. What two numbers multiply to give us negative 20, but add to give us negative 1? So that would be negative 5 plus 4. Again, 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. 4 minus 5 is negative 1. Divided by, now this piece, same process, parentheses x, close parentheses, parentheses x, close parentheses. What two numbers multiply to give us 3, but add to give us 4? Positive 3 and positive 1, because 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So now we factor the numerator and denominator. Next step is to get a common denominator. So here we have an x plus 3, here we have an x plus 3, here we have an x plus 1. This one does not have it, so we need to multiply this numerator and denominator by x plus 1. But this piece has an x plus 2, but this piece does not, so we need to multiply this piece by x plus 2 and the denominator by x plus 2. So let's rewrite this. So 5x times this x plus 1 divided by, we have x plus 2 times x plus 3. And we got to add this x plus 1. Again, we don't want to make any real changes. And x plus 1 divided by x plus 1 is 1. So now we'll do the other piece. So plus parentheses x plus 4 times x minus 5. And this piece had the x plus 2, so we need to put it both in the numerator and denominator. Divided by, we have an x plus 1 times x plus 3 times x plus 2. So now we have a common denominator, so now we can add the numerators. So we have 5x times x plus 1 plus the other piece, so x plus 4 times x minus 5 times x plus 2 divided by our common denominator, which was x plus 2 times x plus 3 times x plus 1. The next step is I would like to have the numerator where it's expanded. So we're going to take our 5x, we're going to multiply by x, we're going to take our 5x, we're going to multiply by 1, and we're going to expand two of these pieces, and then we'll do it again. And I'll show you what I mean by that. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 1 is 5x. Now we'll expand these two pieces. So x times x is x squared. I'll put a parentheses. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. 4 times x is positive 4x. And 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. We'll close our parentheses, do another parentheses, and now I'll do this piece, x plus 2. But we'll do that in the next step. Divided by our common denominator, so x plus 2 times x plus 3 times x plus 1. Now, before we expand this again, we might as well clean this up a little bit. Negative 5x plus 4x would give us a negative 1x, or just negative x. Next, we're going to expand again. So we go to our numerator, 5x squared plus 5x. Now we need to do this piece times this piece. So x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 2 would give us 2x squared. Negative x times x would give us negative x squared. Negative x times 2 would give us negative 2x. And then negative 20 times x is negative 20x. And negative 20 times 2 is negative 40. Divided by our common denominator. We're very close to being finished. Once we kind of clean up the numerator, we'll pretty much have our answer. So the next step is to kind of group everything. So x cubed, we just have one of these x cubed, so we'll write x cubed. So let's cross it out. We have a 5x squared, we have a 2x squared, we have a negative x squared, and 5 plus 2 is 7, 7 minus 1 is 6, so we have plus 6x squared. Let's cross it out so we know we did it. Now we have 5x, a negative 2x, a negative 20x. Negative 2 minus 20 is negative 22, plus 5 would give us negative 17x. And let's cross this out so we know we did it. And we also have a negative 40, divided by our common denominator, x plus 2 times x plus 3 times x plus 1. Our very last thing, just to state what x can't be. We know x cannot be negative 2, comma, negative 3, or negative 1, because if x is negative 2, we get negative 2 divided by 2, so you'd be dividing by 0. Likewise, negative 3 plus 3 is 0, and you'd be dividing by 0. And same thing for negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0, and you'd be dividing by 0, and you can divide by 0. So this right here is our final answer. And that's all we need to do to add and subtract rational expressions.